Welcome, Bug Don't Know Shit. It is a cloudy, humid, muggy day here in Texas. This morning, let's see what we got going on. I finished up the power steering gearbox. Okay, so this is the last thing I took out, and it's going to be the first thing I put back in. And if you look at these instructions or what came with the kit, and it is the same, but basically on this end I have the bearing, which is in, and they didn't send me a new one, so I just oiled it up and assuming it's good to go. Then I have the worm shaft seal, which is this guy, and assuming it's this way because this way is tapered for a shaft to go through, and that'll be pressed in. Then it's just the snap ring and then the dust seal, this guy right here. So let me find me something to, I'm just gonna have to lightly tap this in. Let me find something for that and get my snap ring. I got two different diameters here. This is the one we need. That's good because I did lose one of these when I was taking it apart, shot off somewhere, never found it. So the kits did send new snap rings, and this came in two different bags with two different sets of instructions. I believe all these parts here that came in this bag were for the sector shaft. Anyway, we'll install our snap ring, put our dust cap on, and then this side will be done. We'll flip it over and we'll be installing the worm gear part and the tensioning nut, spacer, all that stuff. So let me find what I did with stuff. Okay, just going to use a little socket. Tap this down. Fits in between the rubber pieces of this seal. And we'll tap it down until I can get to the snap ring. Walmart snap ring pliers. There it is. All right, this is fun. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, I may go back in with this guy. In now, and I'm going to tap this bearing back up against the snap ring. Make sure all that is nice and snug. After this, the book says to install this guy with the spacer. There is an O-ring that goes somewhere over this. Spacer sits right there. I know this goes in through here, like that. Yep, looks like seal's good. The O-ring goes, the old one was kind of bevel shaped and this one is square. It does say to use petroleum jelly which is kind of odd, I thought, but that is what I'm going to use for my greasing, even though, all right. So there you go. Putting that in now, that we'll install the lock ring, well, the tensioning ring, and then the lock ring. Okay, and I don't have the tool. We've discussed this. I did get a piece of pipe, and I could make a tool with it, but yeah, I'm not going to. It is supposed to be tightened down to 55 foot-pounds, which is snug but not overly tight. But I'm going to use the same method, putting it in, that I used taking it out. And of course, it's going to take a minute. I'll speed you up while I do this. What it took to take it off, which mine was a little harder, but I have watched a couple videos, or one video of a guy taking this exact gearbox apart. And you know, like I said, 55 foot-pounds, pretty familiar with that amount of torque. Of course, it's a lot different than that, but it is not, you're not putting out that much. So yeah, I'm just going to get it snug. And then the lock ring itself is like 25 foot-pounds, what it called for. Here's your lock ring right here. And the differences is the grooves are cut from the ID on the tensioning nut. They're cut all the way through the thickness of it. So there is a little bit of difference in the way these look. And again, this one only calls for 25 foot-pounds. It was very easy to take out. So we're just going to get it snug. A little harder to get started though. It's very thin. And again, the only thing we had installed to reinstall on this was the shim, and it was very thin. Didn't measure the thickness of it, but the kit doesn't come with one, so just use what you got. Now we gotta install the piston and ball nut on the worm gear. Check which way this goes on. Now there is, this one does have a seal on this piston. So we'll get that off and replace it. That does need to be replaced. Teflon, so I'm assuming it's this one. This is the only plastic ring I have, and it's the right diameter, so pretty sure this is it. Just a snug fit. One thing I did forget to do on this is put the dust cap on, which we will do in a second. I did lube this Teflon ring up, as to do in the book, and we're going to try to get it to go on without breaking it. There we go. Okay, Teflon ring is installed. So basically you want to get this to where these balls have a place to fall into. That is the basic idea of it. And I will bring you in here to show you what I'm looking at. So you can see down in there, if you slide it over, you know, there's nowhere for the balls to go. Move it back there, and there you can see they got a place to go. I'm gonna leave it like that, and then it's got this feeding tube, inlet tube, which it is in 2 halves. And there are the 2 halves right there. And you see it's got a hole in the middle. So basically you put these in and they will kind of line up like that. Now you got 1 hole. Start feeding balls in. I'm basically just making a turn and dropping some more balls in. And it does say, you know, if you don't get all the balls fed in, to just kind of work it back and forth. Shove some down. These don't want to go. Alright, well they're in there. It's locked in, it doesn't pull out, so I am going to put the cover on, which is this little guy here. And that just, all it does is lock that little tube in and keeps the balls from falling out. So really nothing to that. Okay, that is on. I do need to put this dust cap on. Put a little petroleum jelly on it. All. There. Dust caps installed. Now this end had this oddball guy right here. So let me look at that and see when I need to install it. And this was just hand tight. It's like an aluminum cap, and I'm not really certain the purpose of it, but I remember it was just hand tight. It was not snug at all, just hand tight. Well, you missed all that. So basically, I was installing that guy right there. So just hand tight. It's a square nut, no seal on it. Okay, couple things to note. You have a fluid passage right here, lube passage, and you've got one on the gear housing, the body, main body right here, and there is a little O-ring down in there that we will have to dig out. Not gonna be hard, but just something that is easily missed. And in this it is flattened, but I'm assuming that it is not normally flat and that this would be it. These are the same diameter, that little guy right there. So just little things you gotta look out for on this that would have been easily missed. So just read your instructions thoroughly, watch videos. I'm gonna go rewatch a couple after I get done with this. I'm trying to do it on my own, reading through the book, but I will go watch videos and make sure there's nothing that I have missed when I'm done with this. So far I've got my O-ring here. Can you see that? Can't see that. I've got an O-ring here, got my Teflon seal here, put an O-ring up there, and I will line up that hole with that hole, of course, and make sure my teeth on this guy are kind of facing the way the sector shaft is going to go in, right? So this is what does all the work right here. Other than that, I think we're ready to install this thing. this in. I'm gonna petroleum jelly on the outside of this Teflon ring. It kind of interchangeably goes from Vaseline to gear lube is what it says to use. So I have been using Vaseline on most of the seals. But let me make sure. Where's my? There's my. So just real quick, one more time. This does look right. Everything's lining up. I'm gonna make. And you can turn the whole thing, and I am putting my piston from my teeth are lined up with the sector shaft, and it will like kind of unwind itself when you're setting this in there. So and that is seated. There's nothing to it. Then my book says put the bolts in, but don't tighten them. And I did not have lock washers with these. All right, things are going back together. Okay, so on my sector shaft, this was pretty simple. The lower bearing, you know, the brass race is still in there. And then you have a upper seal, spacer washer, lower seal, spacer washer, snapper. So that is what basically these components are. Lower seal, they're both the same. The spacer washers, they're both the same. Upper seal, and then this should be my snap ring right here. So we will just be tapping these in, and they all came out with the flatter side up. So let me tap this in. Just help it where I'm not hitting on any rubber there. I should move this up a little bit in there. Down on this side some. Okay. Got our spacer in already. We will put this second seal in. Lube it up good. And I'll do the same thing. The O-ring, spacer plate. Snap ring, and I think I can get another spacer in there. Put the snap ring in. This ought to be fun. Hopefully this one doesn't shoot out all over the place. Where'd that sucker go? And it has a spare also. So, say I have the old one. This one might be the one I lost the other day. I think it is. All right, I had to run to town, and while I was there, I went and bought some of my town's finest snap ring pliers available, the Titans. They're better than the Walmart ones, I hope. But and I'd lost all the attachments to my Walmart ones, so we will see if these help or not. So far it hadn't popped off. That's good. And it actually went down in there. Look at that. One shot. Holy shit. So spend $21 and get you a set of Titans. Much better than the little Walmart cheapies. They had these kind at O'Reilly. Also, I bought these at O'Reilly's for internal and external. You can just click the little dial right there, makes it real easy. It's got other attachments in there for different sizes, but this is what came in them, and they work great. So yeah, I'm happy. Let's look at this. So I know I've got this bottomed out, so you know it is 1 3/4 turn. You're supposed to turn it, and you can see, so it's not centered right now. So I'm just gonna show you the movement of it as I turn it. And I think basically you want that center tooth to be centered, but it says 1 3/4 turns. So let me bottom it out again. There, that's the end of it. And let's see. Let's make it easy. We'll line it up with that V right there. Okay. I will turn it 1 3/4 turns. There's 1 1/2 and 3/4. And let's see what it looks like in there. So that looks like that center tooth is pretty well centered. So I think that's what we want. And now we got to look at this guy. Actually, I believe this goes back on here, but put that back on later. Yep, so I think it is time to reinstall this. Okay, not a lot of instruction on this last part. The sector shaft install, but basically I got an O-ring here that goes underneath this housing of your sector shaft. And what I'm doing here, remember it has a thread, and this piece actually threads on, but this turns as you turn this. So I'm gonna just hold it, screw it down. There is a bushing in here that this all kind of rides on. Actually, let me lubricate all this. Got lube in there. And we will stick this through. This is not lining up as easy as it should. Let me tap this out, take a look at these teeth. I may not have it lined up perfectly right here. I think my problem is that I don't have the teeth in here. They're maybe turned this way a hair. I need to get them over this way a little more, so I've got to pull this guy out one more time. Let's see if we can get that sucker to slide in there now. Looks like it went further. Get the seal in place. I'll squish it. And I do have the 2 big bolts. I should be able to tighten this down. The nameplate does go on these 2 bolts. I read that in the book. So make sure I get it back on there. Probably should have cleaned it up first, but oh well. We have just about everything. Put my rag joint on, put my pitman arm on down there. I will go ahead and try to get that on. Probably stand this up. Gotta put this washer and lock nut back on the top. These were not on very tight. I do have to figure that adjustment out too. But wrench on that. It was not very tight, so just snugged it up just a little. So yeah, steering gearbox is complete, more or less. I mean, it's complete. I'm going to degrease it one last time because I have, even though I heated all these up and got the grease out of them, I have gotten grease all over these parts, you know, oiling them as I was putting them together. Oh, look at that. Little black petroleum. What is that? Oh, why did I go with gloss? Yeah. Anyway, it's gonna be glossy. So, yep, got one side of it painted. Looks pretty good. Hopefully it stays together. So get this back in the car probably, I'm thinking Sunday. Tomorrow I'm going to work on the transmission, finish that project up, get my drive shaft installed. I got one of the U-joints pressed in the yoke. Gotta figure out which end of my drive shaft was which. I don't know that it matters, but I did have some weights welded to one end, so I'll try to put it back in the way I had it before. But yeah, do transmission tomorrow, and I've got everything cleaned up pretty well under there. Throw a little more floor dry under it tonight, and finish cleaning this up tomorrow as well. Get some spray paint on it. It's looking a lot better. I know there was so much, I mean, probably a ½ inch just of grime. I scraped out with my fingers a lot of it. You can see a lot of it on the floor down there. Got to sweep that up. But I mean, that's all that on the floor came from right here. So yeah, there was a mess behind this power steering and underneath this power steering gearbox. It's gonna look so much better, and if I have problems in the future, it'll be so much easier to see where it's coming from. And that's the idea of cleaning all this up. Just makes life easier, right? So, and you know, you're less hesitant to work on it. So we will continue on. The old Thunderbird. Won't be long. We'll be driving this sucker.